Hello everyone, and welcome to our paper talk on Viz Ex Machina, an analysis of trust in human versus algorithmically generated visualization recommendations. My name is Rachael Zehrung.
And I'm Astha Singhal.
And we are currently master's students at the University of Maryland. This is joint work with Dr. Leilani and Dr. Michael Correll. In this talk, we aim to provide a brief overview of our work, so without further ado, let's get started. Visualization recommendation systems are increasingly popular in both academic and industry visualization tools, such as Voyager's Related Views, Tableau's Show Me, and Power BI's Quick Insights panel. Given that visualization design can be a time-consuming and complex process, these systems attempt to help analysts by automatically generating expressive and informative visualizations.
Despite the prevalence of these systems, it is unclear whether users use or even trust these features. Extensive work has explored user trust in algorithmic decision-making systems, and generally users trust human recommendations or decisions more than algorithmic ones, though some exceptions have been noted. However, it is unclear whether these insights translate to the realm of automated visualization recommendation systems.
That leads us to our primary research question. How do existing preferences for human versus algorithmic recommendations affect perceptions of visualization recommendation quality? We focused our research on exploring how existing beliefs impact the ways that users assess visualization recommendations, especially in terms of relevance and utility.
Our experimental setup was as follows. We recruited 114 participants from Prolific, a crowdsourcing website, to complete a survey. This survey first asked participants about their prior preferences for human or algorithmic recommendations. Then, participants were asked to evaluate two sets of recommendation panels. Lastly, participants had to choose a panel and to explain their rationale.
Here's an example of the two recommendation panels shown to participants. One panel, on the left, is labeled as human-curated and the other as algorithmically generated. In reality, both were created by the authors. We created relevance metrics for panels based on the top 5 attributes of interest gathered in a pilot study, and then used those metrics to create panels of varying relevance.
Now that we've covered the motivations and the experimental design, let's move on to the results. We first wanted to evaluate how prior preference related to subsequent choice. To demonstrate, let's say that this is our sample. When we solicited participant priors, we found that approximately 60% preferred human recommendations, 10% preferred algorithmic recommendations, and the rest had no preference.
However, when participants had to choose between panels that were labeled as human or algorithmically generated, we found that participants were split evenly between human or algorithmic panels. This suggests that prior preferences were not indicative of subsequent panel choice, which goes against our intuition. So what were some of the reasons for this mismatch? We did a qualitative analysis of participants' free text explanations of their decision-making process and found that most participants seemed to make their decision based on information that they thought was important, such as relevant attributes and relationships between attributes.
We found two prominent information foraging strategies amongst participants whom we named all-rounders and seekers. All-rounders seem to value panels based on the quality of the panel as a whole. For example, this could be the number of insightful visualizations. On the other hand, seekers seem to hone in on the presence of a specific visualization or visualizations.
That said, around a fifth of participants seem to value the source of the panel when making their decisions. In these cases, participants often reference common beliefs such as the notion of a human touch or that algorithms are more accurate than people. To conclude our presentation, let's discuss some of our takeaways. First, we found that prior preferences were not predictive of visualization recommendation choice. Instead, most users chose panels in a data-driven way, based on the attributes or relationships that they found to be most important. As a result, we suggest that designers should consider tailoring recommendations to the different information foraging strategies of users.
We also found that the labeling of a visualization panel as human-curated or algorithmically generated was influential to some participants. So we suggest that designers could address this through incorporating explanations into their recommendations. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and we're happy to answer questions now. We've provided our contact information and a link to our paper for further reading.